He had no army. He had no wealth. He had no political power. Yet, he was the most dangerous man in ancient Greece. Why did the mighty city of Athens fear a 70-year-old stonemason so much that they had to execute him? And why, when handed the cup of deadly poison, did he not beg for mercy, but drank it like a glass of celebratory wine? This is not just a story about a philosopher. This is the story of the first true rebel, the man who looked death in the eye and blinked first. This is Socrates. Starting from the ending, the choice in the prison cell. Let's rewind the clock to the year 399 BC. Inside the cold, stone walls of an Athenian prison, an insane scenario is unfolding. A 70-year-old man stands holding a cup of deadly poison, as calm as if he were raising a glass of wine for a toast. This is Socrates. But here is the twist. He did not have to die that day. The execution had been delayed for religious reasons, buying him precious time. In the shadows, his loyal friends had already arranged everything for a jailbreak. Even the guards were ready to turn a blind eye, allowing the wise old man to quietly vanish from Athens and live out his days. The door to life was kicked wide open, but Socrates did something that sent a shiver through history. He said no. He refused to run. He declared with iron conviction that breaking the law to save his aging body would only rot his soul. In his final moments, he passionately debated the immortality of the soul with his friends, and then, with ice-cold resolve, he drained the cup of hemlock. With his dying breath, he spoke of a debt owed to the god of medicine, Asclepius, as if death was not an end, but a final cure for the sickness of mortal life. He chose death to defend the truth. That is the choice of the Invictus. The horsefly angered Athens. So who exactly was this condemned man who made an entire empire tremble? If you had bumped into Socrates on the streets of Athens back then, you would never have guessed you were standing face to face with a giant. He wasn't born into silk or nobility. His father, Sophronius, was just a stonemason, and his mother, Phainarete, was a simple midwife. He had no fancy schooling. He wrote 0 books to preserve his legacy, and stranger still, he refused to accept a single coin for his teachings. Physically, Socrates was a walking paradox. History describes him as short, stocky, bald, with a distinctive snub nose. He looked more like a brute laborer than a philosopher. But hidden behind that rough exterior was a mind as sharp as a razor, a weapon that would eventually turn the entire city of Athens upside down. His stage was not some grand lecture hall, but the dusty streets and the noisy marketplaces of the agora. There he would corner anyone from famous generals and arrogant poets to powerful politicians. He didn't teach them, he interrogated them. Socrates famously compared himself to a gadfly. He saw Athens, the capital of civilization and power, as a massive, beautiful thoroughbred horse that had become sluggish, lazy, and asleep on its own victory. And the mission of that tiny gadfly? To sting the horse awake. He asked deceptively simple questions about justice, morality, and truth. But these questions had devastating power. He stripped away the naked truth, that those who claimed to be the wisest actually knew nothing. He ripped off the shiny masks of the elite to reveal the ignorance rotting underneath. By daring to be the only awake man in a crowd of sleepwalkers, Socrates became a thorn in the eye of the establishment. Fear of his influence began to creep through the halls of power, and as per the inevitable law of history, when the powerful cannot answer the question, they choose to destroy the questioner. The spirit of a warrior. When we hear the word philosopher, our imagination often paints a picture of frail bookworms hiding in ivory towers, buried under piles of theory. But with Socrates, shatter that image. Long before he held the torch that lit the path for Western wisdom, he held a sword and shield to protect Athens with his own blood. He wasn't some ceremonial guard or a desk-bound bureaucrat. Socrates was a hoplite, a heavy infantryman. You have to visualize this. A short, stocky man, his muscles hardened by years of labor as a stonemason, clad in heavy armor, gripping a long spear, standing as immovable as a rock in the center of the battlefield. In the fiercest cauldrons of the Peloponnesian War at Potidaea, Delium and Amphipolis, the name Socrates wasn't associated with questions, but with iron discipline and shocking resilience. Amidst the chaos of clashing steel and screaming men, he was the one who held the line while others broke and ran. The peak of this courage was at the Battle of Potidaea, when the talented young general and future political firebrand, Alcibiades, was wounded and fell, surrounded by the enemy. It was Socrates and no one else who charged alone into that death zone. He used his shield and his solid body to cover the boy, fighting off the enemy and dragging Alcibiades back from the jaws of death. But what made him a legend wasn't just his strength, it was his character. After the battle, when the army wanted to award him the prize for supreme valor, Socrates refused. He insisted the honor go to the young Alcibiades instead, displaying the ultimate humility of a true warrior. It was that furnace of war that forged a Socrates of grit and steel, a man who had stared into the eyes of death on the battlefield without flinching. How could such a man ever bow his head before the hypocrites in the courtroom? The steel spirit of the soldier was the foundation that allowed him to stand tall before death years later. The trial and a free death. But in this life, the truth cuts deep. And Socrates' brutal honesty? It was practically a pre-signed death sentence. Finally, the bill came due for the man who dared to wake up Athens. In 399 BC, his enemies, Miletus, Anytus, and Lycon, dragged this 70-year-old man to the dock. The charges sounded ridiculous, yet they carried the stench of death. Impiety toward the gods and corrupting the youth. Picture the scene of that trial. Standing before 500 powerful jurors, any other man would have dropped to his knees. They would have wept, begged, or paraded their weeping wife and children to plead for mercy. That was the survival manual of Athens. But Socrates? No. He stood there arrogant and unyielding. Instead of admitting guilt or begging to pay a fine for his life, he rejected the standard penalties. With the air of a master lecturing unruly children, he audaciously proposed that the state should provide him with free meals for his service to the city, or perhaps a tiny fine that his friends would cover. It was a slap in the face to the jury. Outraged, and by a narrow margin of votes, they delivered their verdict: death. But it was in the moment the sentence was passed that Socrates achieved his true victory. In his final hours, when the cup of hemlock was brought to him, his hand did not shake. He accepted it as calmly as one greets an old friend. While his friends wept around him, Socrates remained serene, discussing the immortality of the soul and how death is merely a liberation for the mind. He drained the cup, leaving behind cryptic final words about a debt owed to the healer god, Asclepius. Socrates did not depart as a victim cast out by society, but as a man of absolute freedom. He had conquered humanity's greatest fear, death itself. His enemies could kill his aging body, but they were powerless against his unconquerable soul. An immortal legacy. There lies a profound paradox at the heart of this man's story. Socrates left behind absolutely no writings, no books, no manuscripts, no handwritten dogmas. By all conventional logic, his name should have vanished into dust the moment that poison coursed through his veins. But it didn't. His death was not an ending. It was a big bang of human thought. From the ashes of 399 BC, his students, especially Plato and later Aristotle, carried the Promethean fire of Socrates to illuminate the entire world. He became the spiritual godfather, laying the very first cornerstone for Western philosophy, science, and ethics. Today, when scientists demand evidence, when lawyers battle in courtrooms, they are still wielding the Socratic method, that relentless tool of dialogue and inquiry he birthed in the noisy marketplaces thousands of years ago. But the greatest legacy left by this condemned man is not some lofty theory. It is a raw lesson in humility and courage. He taught us that the pinnacle of wisdom is not pretending to know everything, but having the guts to admit, I know that I know nothing. Ignorance is not what kills wisdom. The illusion of knowledge does. Above all, his voluntary death stands as the ultimate proof. Philosophy is not empty talk. Philosophy is action. True courage is not about killing on a battlefield. It is daring to live and to die for the truth you believe in, even when the whole world turns its back on you. Socrates is dead, but his Invictus spirit is immortal. He remains there, like an eternal gadfly, stinging our complacency and asking one final question: Are you truly living, or are you just existing? Socrates challenged the world with a single question. Now I challenge you. Will you sleep like the lazy horse, or will you wake up like the gadfly? If you are ready to forge an iron mind and master the art of Stoicism, don't just watch, take action. Hit that subscribe button and join the ranks of the modern Invictus. The journey doesn't stop here. Click the video on your screen right now to discover 12 mistakes that kill attraction. Stoic advice for every high-value man. Thank you for watching. Stay strong, stay Invictus.